Welcome to the Proven Principles podcast by Knowing Hospitality, the show that deconstructs and demystifies the inner workings of the hotel industry. Here's your host, Adam Knight.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here. I've got a fantastic guest today. Casey Pearce is the president of Contract Services Group. They're a commercial janitorial service company based down in Southern California, and we are talking about what is probably the most important, relevant topic today as we start to look at hotels reopening, having guests and employees come back into our buildings. We're talking about cleanliness, sanitation, the tools that are available to you out there, the resources that are available to you out there, regulations to keep in mind. I mean, we cover a lot of ground in this show today. So rather than me going on and on about it, let's just get right to it. Casey Pearce, president of Contract Services Group. Enjoy. Casey, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Likewise, Adam. Thank you for inviting me.
I appreciate you taking some time. And what we're going to talk about today, cleaning and cleanliness, and in these times of COVID and the pandemic, I think is not only, it's good practices for people in general, but very topical for what's going on today.
It sure is. It's changing day by day, as is the world.
As is the world, exactly. So why don't we start with kind of jumping into yourself, your background. Why don't you tell listeners a little bit about yourself, where you're from and your career and how you got to where you are today?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm the president of Contract Services Group, and we are based in Southern California is where our corporate headquarters is located. And we were fast approaching 1,000 employees and growing very rapidly and providing services to the commercial cleaning services, but includes hospitality, education, retail, office properties, and then multifamily housing are the different sectors that we have honed in on. And my father actually started the company. Today he's 78 and still works full time, more than full time. And I think what's happened over the last 2 months, I don't think both of us commented the fact that I don't think we've worked as hard as we have in our entire careers, just with what we're up against and changing times so quickly. But we've been fortunate to partner with some big names in hospitality, and have learned a lot from those companies that we do work with, and some of the policies and procedures that those companies require of us. We've implemented them into our organization, and it's and I think what a lot of people don't understand too is that in a service industry, in a successful service industry, and especially in California, it's extremely difficult to be successful at it. And the rules, and especially West Coast, Southern California, it's if you're not of significant size, the numbers don't make sense. So we're fortunately that we've been able to, make it through the small, the medium-sized company to where we're like medium large, and it's completely changed. It's volume based. This is our business, and we were faced with historic low unemployment rates and not being able to find enough employees. And now the tables have turned, of course, with the pandemic that's before us. But I think just having the ability to be able to adapt quickly and everyone's faced with that same I think situation now that's before us. But we're glad. Someone told me, Adam, that 9/11 security is to 9/11 what cleaning is to this pandemic, and it's really pushed us to the front.
That's such a great way to look at it. I haven't heard that before, but yeah, it's true. I mean, it's forcing not just the obvious hotels and restaurants and some of the offshoots to rethink how they do things and be nimble, but a company like yours that deals in cleanliness and sanitation and making spaces hygienic for people. I'm sure you've had to think about things in a completely different way going forward. And it's one thing to just continue doing what you've always done, but how do you change that and evolve it for the environment that we're in today? So I can only imagine some of the challenges that you're faced with.
Yeah. Very, and you're right. And then the PPEs are huge, and then now I think the unknown, we don't know what we don't know. And so having our employees on the front line and asking them to go out and work when the majority of the world is not and are sheltering in place, and we still have obligations that we have to fulfill to our clients and keep facilities clean and disinfected. And you're right. In the past, our industry was looked at as, well, hey, make it clean, be invisible, just make our property look good, and we don't want to see you as little as possible. And our clients are kind of changing their tune, and like having us be visible is fine, because I think that's going to play a lot into it's going to make an impact if the guests or the clients or the patrons of the facility see someone there cleaning. It's going to make them feel better, and I think that's or feel safer. Kind of like the way a security guard. You see a security guard, you feel a little bit safer walking out to your car in a parking lot. Well, now when you see a porter cleaning and wiping down tables and disinfecting, you're going to feel a little bit more comfortable sitting in the food court and eating a meal. And the electrostatic sprayers, and you may have heard a lot about that. And that's a technology that we actually put a purchase order in on April 5th for over $100,000 worth of these sprayers. And the technology's been around for a long time, and painters have used it for years. And so to give you a example, so if you spray a surface with a normal trigger sprayer, it kind of just floats across the surface and may get the front. But with this electrostatic technology, you spray it and it kind of encapsulates the entire object. And so it'll get under it, behind it, over it, and really makes you efficient. And then the product is charged, so it clings to the surface, and then therefore can kill the virus or kill the bacteria or whatever's on the surface. And then the nice thing about that product or that type of technology is that it doesn't require you to go back and wipe it down. You can spray and go, keep going, versus the technology that's there, or that without that technology, you've got to spray it and let it dwell for 10 minutes is what the EPA is requiring of normal disinfectant. So, but yeah, I think it's really pushed us to the top of the list with clients and their facilities. They want to, and all of their clients too. Everyone seems to be formulating their reopening plans right now, and so everyone's turning to us to help them combat it. But then we're all coming to the realization that until a vaccine is found, we're all going to be faced with employees that are going to contract the virus, and guests are. And so what are we going to do when that happens at a property? And there's certain criteria that you follow, and if it was a guest room in a hotel, then obviously you vacate the room, you let the room sit vacant for up to 24 hours, or 24 hours is what they're recommending before we would go in and do our disinfecting. And versus a common area, and you shut it down as much as you can, and you go in right away. You don't wait if it's in an open area. So there's all different kinds of protocols, but we're working with our clients to help them come up with a plan, and even have a team that's on site, maybe possibly take over the public area cleaning, and then have that same team trained and ready to go. So at a moment's notice, if we get the call, and it's going to happen. Our company, and I think I'll back up a little bit, Adam. We were fast approaching 1,000 employees. We furloughed 500 and change, and it's and some of that and since the furlough, which was middle of March, we've brought back close to 200 of those that have been furloughed. So we're helping out. We were the recipient in round one of the payroll protection program, the PPP, and so that's put us in a great position to be able to assist our clients with some discount. Everyone's trying, with trying times, their revenues are down, so we're able to give them some some great pricing to help them get their properties reopened when they don't have revenue, right?
Right. Wow. I mean, in just a minute and a half or 2 minutes, I mean, you outlined a dozen, 15 different
Yeah.
challenges and everything that you're just juggling right now. And the landscape is constantly changing. One thing actually that came to mind as you were talking about it, in particular, purchasing the electrostatic sprayers. Are you seeing any equipment shortages out there right now?
Oh,
Are
big,
you
big
able to get
time.
your hands on it?
Yeah. So gloves, masks, and goggles, and then the electrostatic sprayer. So we've been stockpiling, and that's something too where we're waiting for the mandate to come down as far as an employer. What are we going to be required to do to provide to our employees? And masks is a big subject, and do we have enough? And if you're, is it a three? I've learned so much. So there's 3-ply, there's surgical, there's non-surgical, there's the ones with the filters. What's the name of that? And the numbers, the 97,
Oh, the N95.
N95. Yeah. But we're not going into no, I guess if our crew is going into a room where we know there was a known COVID-19 case, we're giving them the N95s. Mm-hmm. But if they're just going around and cleaning combinations, they don't need the N95s. And so the fourth, so then we had to determine, do we give them one mask a day? And if one mask a day, then that means for each shift, then depending on how many employees, if it's 1,000, you're going to go through 1,000 a day. So there's some severe shortages in masks, and we've been stockpiling masks, just anticipating that the state or the feds are going to come down with some mandates is what we have to provide for our employees. So definitely shortages on all fronts, and then the electrostatic sprayers, they're backlogged. Our order went in on April 5th, and we should get them in. We were told by the middle of June, but again, it's the factories that are making them have even had some issues with COVID-19 cases. But on a good note though, so we have had, switching over to answering your question, I think I answered it about the shortages and the equipment and the time frames. Everything seems to be delayed. We've had about 6 employees that have tested positive over the last 2 months, and on a good note, none of them have had to be hospitalized. They all went home. They all, went to the doctor, got tested. We're told to go home and rest and let it, and if it gets worse, come in. But on a positive note, they all, full recoveries, and all of them are back to work.
That's incredible.
So,
I mean, that's such a relief.
It is. You hear that. I mean, you hear on the news all the doom and gloom, and the numbers are all skewed towards how many people have died from it, and there's so much, how they're not talking about how many people get it and fully recover,
right,
or don't even end up needing hospitalization. And I think when that comes out, it's going to be a lot higher, and which
when the narrative starts to change. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it does.
So, I mean, in working with all of these different companies, different brands, providers, kind of behind the scenes, to your point before, do the job, but don't be seen. But now there's probably almost certainly going to be a push to have service providers out in front, sort of in full force with this obvious cleaning and sanitation going on. How do you manage all of the different company and brand programs that are being put together at the same time as, your internal processes and how you guys are doing things?
That's a great question, Adam. And not easy, that's for sure.
Right.
And I think we were fortunate to when we are a diverse company, and so I think we're not 100% hospitality, and I kind of described to you all the different segments that we are involved in providing services to, and because of that, I was able to retain just a phenomenal management team, and we were all, the salaried managers. These are the individuals that are, I'm one person. I can't do it all. And in the old days, I used to do everything. Customer service, sales, bidding, operations, and so we were able to retain the mid-level managers, and they're all a lot of them are hospitality background, and many years of experience in hospitality. And so I think by having that team on board, and we even, when it first happened, when you lose that many employees, and our revenue went from $2.5 million a month to maybe $1 million. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that kind of loss, we immediately, my accounting team of 4, I cut it to 2. I called Enterprise. We had partnered with Enterprise Rent-A-Cars, which is one of the best things I've ever done, because with a fleet of 30 vehicles, and all of a sudden I don't need half of them. Mm-hmm. I was able to call Enterprise up and tell them, hey, can you pick up these vehicles? And mm-hmm. that's the beauty of being with a company like Enterprise. They picked them up, and that saved thousands of dollars a month in expenses. And and that was my knee-jerk reaction, not realizing that this PPP funding was going to come through and it would cover all those expenses. And now, of course, I'm short vehicles. but I'm adding some back in, and it's crazy how they have such a surplus of some of these identical vehicles that are coming back in. I'm getting them for like $200 a month less than the ones I turned in, and they're brand new. So
wow,
not a bad situation. But,
I guess. Sorry to cut you off, but I was just say, but bringing vehicles back I would think that's a good thing, because you're starting to get people back to work. You need it is.
Yep. Yeah, and we do. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're right. That's a good problem to have, and they're a great partner of ours. They really come through. Now there's no shortage of getting vehicles. They can get them to us immediately with the downturn, unfortunately. But the mid-level team, though, when we didn't know if we were all going to have to take salary cuts. We didn't know if we were all going to have jobs, and so we before we got the PPP funding, we all rolled up our sleeves, and we all picked up some shifts in some of the centers that we provide on the weekends. And by doing that, we saved the company like $12,000 a month. And we did that for, a month and a half, 2 months. And so the team, every single person that I, proposed this idea to, they all said, tell us what we need to do. And, they're not afraid to roll up their sleeves. And it was very humbling going back. And, I even, I have a 20-year-old son and a 17-year-old son, and we went out and doing the services that we ask our employees to do, and dumping trash and picking up gloves and masks off the parking lot that people are just throwing down. It really makes you appreciate what we're asking our team to do. I think it was very impactful for my entire executive team. We were all out there doing it on the boots on the ground. So I think if anything positive, it really makes us, realize that, hey, we're in this together. It's not beneath any of us to do what we're asking our team members to do. So this PPP funding comes through, and now you have to reverse your train of thought, because we only have 8 weeks to spend this money, and we have to get our team members back to work, and hours need to be up. So, it kind of plays mind games with you, because you're back in your mind, you're like, oh, budgets and, no overtime. And, and if you can get the work done an hour less a night, that's great, because that's going to save us money. But now that we have this funding, we have to, it's to get it to our employees and to get them, if they have to work overtime to cover a shift, that's fine. So it's funny how you kind of go back and forth, between trying to, make sense of it all. But back to your original question, I diverted way off course though. So to adapt to all the different requirements of all the, I'm really relying on what we've done. Like Nancy Pino is one of my account managers, and so she's tasked with half a dozen properties. So she's the one that's making sure that the property that she's servicing, that we're training our team to handle the specifics of that property. And so it's and you're right. And in addition to what our requirements are as a company, so it's tough to, not only are they learning what our requirements are, but then also the property specific may have some requirements.
Sure.
A good example is yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, your company, you're effectively subject matter experts, right? I would think that you're able to go in to some hotels and non-hotel entities and actually give them guidance on what they should be doing.
Yeah, and you're exactly right, because a lot of these hotels, they've been closed. They've closed down since this has happened. So we've probably done close to 24 of these disinfecting requests to come out where they've had known cases of COVID-19, and we've done it from hotel guest rooms to common areas to a couple education facilities, and we're promoting this service as well. And it's we did a big manufacturing plant out in Woodland Hills last week as well. So you're right. So we go in. We've got the disposable gowns that you wear, the headgear, the goggles, the gloves, and so you're right. That's what we're really pushing to let them know that not only are we here to give you housekeeping and stewarding and laundry and even engineering, painters, but we're also COVID-19 rapid response team, so we can help you formulate your plan. And it's a lot easier to have that in place. And I don't need to tell you, Adam, being in hospitality, as long as if you have it set up in advance, have an agreement in place with a company so that you're not scrambling at the last minute, to see that the company has their insurance certificates on file with you, and just make sure they have policies and procedures and established, a phone number to contact, so that, depending on your facility, how quickly do we need to respond? And
right.
And I think that's something that I think companies can, learn to get that in place ahead of time, because when it happens, and it's bound to happen, I think, until they find the vaccine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Prior planning and preparedness is going to set you up for success. So, like, on that note, is there anything that you're telling your clients that they need to be prepared for, need to be prepared to do, giving them maybe a little bit of visibility down the road? I know it's really hard right now because it's constantly changing. What we learned this afternoon is probably going to be different tomorrow morning. But, is there any advice that you're giving people and clients right now?
I think, just in what we're seeing, and there was a trend in the industry prior to COVID-19 where we were seeing a lot of properties that were looking at outsourcing their housekeeping department completely. And we were calling it managed housekeeping services. Mm-hmm. And I think now for the properties, and you can probably lend some insight too, that the properties are faced with a tough decision now as to how are they going to survive with occupancy that's severely, dramatically less than what it was prior, and then the group business. The group business is gone. The weddings, the conferences,
Exactly.
all the F&B business, and so they're really, and then who's to say? You keep hearing them saying that this virus may come back in the fall. Mm-hmm. So the ability, I think, for the flexibility for the property to be able to, turn it on or turn it off rather with the labor, mm-hmm. They've been in probably a lot better position to use an outsourced provider for that service. And now more than ever, and we were seeing that trend, it was starting to gain traction, and it was more so in the boutique type hotels where they just want to outsource from the director of housekeeping down. And there's different models, but some are, with the director down, or some say we'll keep our director of housekeeping and you just provide the team members. But we've seen this evolve pretty quickly into not just housekeeping though, but now like even engineering, and how they don't have the cash flow or the with the revenue so far off. How can you afford the high salaried director of engineering and housekeeping and executive steward and all those high level positions where if you don't have 40 housekeepers on board, why do you need a director of housekeeping if you only have 6 housekeepers? Mm-hmm. So I just we're giving them options to say, hey, let us be your partner to help you ride this up or down, depending. And then maybe, we have a director of engineering that we can share. One model we're looking at, though, say we have a DOE and he can oversee 6 properties, and maybe he's on property, for the high level stuff, maybe one day a week he gets there and he can meet with a chief, or kind of a position that's, a couple tiers down.
Sure.
That's going to be able to save the property money. So I think just exploring all these options and getting that information out there to our clients to say, hey, we're here to help you, let us, know to what extent do you want us to assist you on.
Right.
And everyone's different, Adam. They all have different plans. The Convention Center Hotel downtown San Diego, he said, we're not going to open until September, because we choose to lose no money than to lose, open up and lose money, versus just stay in status quo. And they, I guess they'll lower their losses because they're going to continue to lose money until they open. But if they were to open,
the carrying cost is lower than actually opening the doors.
Yeah.
I was actually talking.
I think that's our advice.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody the other day about exactly that, and the rush to open the doors of hotels. And I want to be optimistic about it, but it's hard to see that we may not even be out of the first inning of this issue yet.
Right.
So, every hotel is trying to figure out what the right date is, what the right path is. Do we open today? Do we stay closed for the summer? Do we wait to see if there's another increase in cases in the fall? There's a huge impact in a lot of different, not just hotel businesses, but lenders and property owners, companies like yours, all of the offshoot businesses that all pop up around big hotels. All the restaurants and
all the
dry cleaners to do all the guest laundry, and I mean, it's just it just kind of cascades through.
You're right. It's hard to wrap your head around, and the minute you think you kind of grasp the severity or the magnitude of it, then you hear another story of another industry that's just been decimated by this. And it's tough. It's tough on a lot. I think I find a little bit of peace in the fact that it's the world. We're all, everyone's in this together.
Exactly.
It's not one person. That has not been affected by it, and unfortunately, some more than others. But I could go back to that. I'm real thankful to have been in to be in the cleaning industry and to be able to offer a service. And it's we've got a long road ahead of us, though. That's for sure.
I think it's interesting that you were talking about outsourcing or kind of wholesale outsourcing of relatively big departments in hotels. I mean, housekeeping is usually one of the bigger departments in a property. Engineering, depending on the size of the hotel, could be a very big department as well. I mean, that's obviously a change that's going to be discussed, when the time is right at any business. But that's a big change for the industry. Are there any other changes kind of related to guest impact or customers or your clients or employees that you're starting to talk about or you're starting to see, maybe you've got some visibility on down the road?
Yeah. I one of the things, and I think it was Marriott that came out. They're all of the big chains are coming out with their protocols for services, and I think one of the big things could be the fact that guests may, you check into your room, it's been disinfected, it's clean, and you may not want to have service at all in that room until you check out. Right. And so I think that's going to have a huge impact on the number of housekeepers needed, frankly, so, and that could definitely help the hotel operations from a financial standpoint, because if you don't have to have, room service every single day and the expectation isn't there, I think that could be a benefit, so you still would be able to take, fresh towels up and, amenities, whatever the request, or request to service a room if it needs be. But I think that's something that's going to be very impactful on the hotel operations, and how that translates into room rates. If the room rates adjust or the offset it by saying that you're going to go in and have these rooms serviced, and then the final step is you have someone go in with an electrostatic sprayer, and disinfect everything, and then kind of, I think I've seen some samples of other properties saying they slap like a little decal saying, room's been disinfected.
Right.
Kind of like when you saw like when those toilet, when you go into a hotel room and the toilet has the white,
They're coming back.
Crisscross, yeah, and just, like crime scene, hey, it's clean, cleared for entry.
Yeah. It's modeling the financial impact of this, I think, is going to be tricky for a little while because, 50% is going to be the new 100%. And so if you start talking about, holding rooms 24 hours in between each guest, and you start talking about, cutting restaurant capacity and meeting room capacity, by as much as the square footage of the room will allow you to do so to maintain social distancing, whether it's 6 feet or if that distance changes. Just figuring out how this is all going to play out just from a profit perspective is something that's going to be really important. And the people aspect is absolutely important. But I said earlier about, you've had to furlough some employees of yours. At the beginning, you've started to bring them back. The PPP helped you do that. You're starting to see a little bit of a pickup in business. And so you can bring people back and enterprise cars and whatnot. But, getting down and dirty and having the leaders of a company empty the trash, do all of the things that you're asking your employees to do are things that you've got to do to make sure that there's a business for your employees to come back to when things do start to turn around.
Adam, you're exactly right. And I didn't even think of that because you're right. It was survival mode to keep the company, to make sure the company was going to be financially sound. And that's one thing my dad has done a great job. And it wasn't until, frankly, five years ago, probably when our sales started to hit, we hit around 18 million a year. And at that time, it's when we actually didn't put every single penny we had back into the business. We were able to start setting aside cash and building up the cash reserve. And I think that really helped us. But then the fast thinking, though, too, you're right, because, if you cut your sales that much, you can burn through cash. One of my roommates from college actually works for Southwest Airlines. And, as much cash as Southwest Airlines has, no one's resilient to weather this storm, without making severe cutbacks, even as much, I think they have some sort of savings that's in the billions, and even their CEO projected, they would, without help, they'd run out of money by the end of the summer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, taking that, you're right, doing what we did to make sure the company stays financially sound, and it's an important part to I think, from the leadership of the company.
Mm-hmm. So important. I saw an interesting story the other day about how they're going about cleaning and sanitizing the New York subway cars. So I think it was a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, they started reducing, or I think even eliminating, the time that the New York subway would run overnight. And I could have the particulars on this wrong, but the idea was that they would eliminate the service overnight so they could clean the cars, disinfect them, and then have them back up and running, in the morning for people to start using again. And so just the other day, they introduced this high-powered UV light that they put in the car, and it almost looks like a strobe light that kind of flashes through the car, and they say, disinfects the car, kills the virus. And I thought that was a really interesting innovation, something that I hadn't seen before, and that will probably make its way at some point, a version of that, into, housekeeping or cleaning hotel rooms. It may be in hospital cleaning practices today, I'm not sure. But, you start looking at that. You've got the electrostatic sprayers that have been around, to your point, for a long time, that are making a big comeback in housekeeping. We're probably going to see that everywhere. They'll be ubiquitous in hotels in the next, 2, 3, 5 years, whenever equipment suppliers can keep up. Are you seeing anything else out there, just from an innovation perspective, or new tools that may be coming down the pike that people could maybe start to research?
I think you hit that. Those are the ones that are at the forefront. And one of our clients from Dream Hotel Hollywood, he keeps sending us links about, this magic product that you can spray on and it kills for, 60 days or 70 days. And we keep sending it to our chemical vendor, and, it's good as long as you don't touch it. The minute you touch it, so it's I think there's a lot of companies out there trying to capitalize off of, and then you have to make sure it's EPA registered, but the idea that you can spray a coating on and it kills the surface for an extended period of time. Well, that's those claims I think are debunked. Unfortunately, there's no magic,
Right.
Product that's going to continue to work. Like an elevator call button. Okay, you spray this coating on there. Well, someone touches it with a virus or a bacteria, that it's going to be on top of that coating. It's not, and the coating doesn't continue to kill. So
Right.
Yeah, we've actually, he sent it to us twice, and one of them, they're both the products that he sent are not even in this country, and so let alone going through all the registrations and the certifications to make that claim. There's
Right.
companies out there making the claim, but there's no documentation to back it up.
So the advice would be cautious with any new tool or product that comes out.
Right, exactly. Yep. Do your research, and don't believe it. Don't believe it unless you have someone giving you the backup documentation to prove it does what it claims to do.
Right. Are there any resources or places that that have helped you on your journey through this whole pandemic and having to evolve your business to be, to provide a safe service, a safe product for people, to make sure that your team is trained up and that you guys are ready to go when we do start coming out of this? So is there a place or a resource that you've used to stay up to date on all of this that maybe we could send listeners to go research on their own?
Yeah, the Building Service Contractors Association is something that we've been members of for years and years, and they've been a great resource as far as keeping all the contractors abreast of the latest technologies, and they're kind of an A to Z. They help this association. So I think it's bscai.org, I believe is their website, but I might be off on that. But Building Service Contractors Association International.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, perfect. And they really cater to and offer forums because across the country we're all dealing with the same issues, and some of us in different states have different issues that pertain to them. But it creates a good resource. We actually, a number of years back, through the Building Service Contractors Association, we formed a group of a peer group. So it was kind of like getting a group of consultants without the price tag of a consultant. And then we would take turns going around to each other's corporate headquarters. And there were 6 of us in it at the time, and we'd rotate. So twice a year. So one year we would, or 1 month we would host. We did April and October, and so over a course of 3 years, we would cycle through everyone's facility. And it just really helped you, understand, and we were all varying sizes, but none of us were competing, against each other, because you got Michigan, you got Louisiana, Texas, Colorado, California, and it's great to talk to people that are in our industry, and the challenges that we face, and you brainstorm and learn. So that formed out of the Building Service Contractors Association, but they have a government affairs department that helps us out with anything legal issues that may pop up, and so yeah, it's a good resource.
That's fantastic. Before we wrap up here today, I have to ask you, our final sort of signature question. Something I like to ask at the end of every show is what are some best practices, or what's a thing that somebody can do today related to everything we've been talking about that's going to give them kind of the most bang for their time and effort?
You know what? That's a good question. And I think I'll revert back to, I think, with a lot in slanted towards the hospitality side, of course, just start planning now and align yourself with whether it be a contractor or, team members that are going to, and again, everything you can do before you open those doors back up in advance just makes it that much easier. And then I think just, getting those established procedures and protocols in place so that you don't get blindsided by a last minute request that you're not prepared to handle. It's stressful enough, and to have to be under the gun and have to deal with something that you're not prepared for.
I love it. Rules for life.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, that's planning. Just plan ahead. That's a good rule for life for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Casey, if people wanted to learn more about you or to get in touch with you, is there a place that they can go to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to our website, which is our name of our company's Contract Services Group, but it's www.csgcares.com.
Great. And we'll link to that in the show notes as well. Well, Casey, look, I really appreciate you being on today. This has been fantastic. A ton of really good information. This is obviously an evolving landscape, but I appreciate you kind of shepherding us through what it is we can do to prepare, what we need to have eyes on. So thank you for providing your expertise today.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me on, Adam. Anytime. Enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. We'll talk soon.
Cheers. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. If you want to learn more about Casey or get in touch with him or his company, you can visit their website at csgcares.com. If you want to learn more about us, you could find us at knowinghospitality.com. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to the Proven Principles Podcast with Adam Knight. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. The podcast is brought to you by Knowing Hospitality, a full-service hotel management company that puts your performance first by rethinking the management model. Visit knowinghospitality.com to learn more. Until next time.